If someone had told me that the biggest betrayal in my marriage wouldn't come from my husband, but from my mother-in-law, I never would have believed them, because when I discovered where our money had really been going, I didn't scream, I didn't argue, I didn't even confront anyone. Instead, I quietly made one decision, and that decision shocked my entire family. But before I tell you what happened, you need to understand how it all started. Hello, everyone. Before I tell you my story, please subscribe to the channel if you enjoy emotional family dramas, shocking betrayals, and satisfying endings. My name is Elina Carter. I'm 30 years old, married. And until last year, I honestly thought I had the perfect life, at least from the outside. My husband Ryan and I had been married for 4 years. Ryan was kind, responsible, funny, and unlike many stories you hear, he genuinely loved me. We rarely fought. We trusted each other completely, and because trust had never been an issue, we shared a joint bank account. Our salaries went into one place. Our bills came out of one place. Everything was transparent, or so I thought. I worked as a financial planner. Numbers were literally my profession. I noticed details, patterns, mistakes, which is why what happened next still embarrasses me, because somehow I missed it for months. Ryan worked long hours as an engineer, and since I handled most household finances, he rarely checked the account. He trusted me, and I trusted him. Simple, peaceful, normal. Until strange things started appearing. At first, it was small, a $200 purchase, then $300, then another. Nothing alarming, nothing dramatic. The descriptions were vague: gift shop, boutique, home essentials. I assumed I had forgotten something, so I ignored it. But then one evening, while reviewing our monthly expenses, I noticed something strange. Our entertainment budget had doubled. Our savings contributions had decreased. And somehow, we had spent nearly $3,000 more than usual. $3,000. That wasn't normal. Not for us. Ryan and I weren't big spenders. We preferred saving, traveling occasionally, planning for the future. So where was the money going? That night I asked Ryan casually. Did you buy anything expensive recently? He looked confused. No, what about you? I shook my head. No. He laughed. Maybe we're secretly rich and forgot. I laughed too. But inside, something felt wrong. Very wrong. A few days later, Ryan's mother, Diane, called. Now, Diane and I had never hated each other, but we were never particularly close either. She liked controlling things, and she had strong opinions about everything, especially our marriage. According to Diane, Ryan was still her little boy, and apparently, nobody could take care of him as well as she could, including me. When we first got married, she criticized my cooking, my decorating choices, my career, even my wedding dress. Ryan usually brushed it off. That's just Mom. And honestly, I tried to keep the peace, because family mattered. Or at least, I thought it did. Over the years, Diane developed an interesting habit. Whenever she wanted something, she called Ryan. Not me, Ryan. And somehow, Ryan always felt guilty saying no. Need groceries? Ryan helped. Need furniture? Ryan paid. Need a vacation? Ryan contributed. At first, I didn't mind. Helping parents wasn't wrong. But sometimes, it felt less like helping, and more like obligation. Then came Diane's upcoming birthday, her 60th birthday, and according to her, it needed to be special, very special. For weeks she talked about it nonstop. Luxury restaurant, designer dress, private decorations, custom cake, flowers. Everything had to be perfect. Honestly, it sounded more like a celebrity wedding than a birthday dinner. But I smiled and supported her. Because I wanted peace. One afternoon, while working from home, I received a fraud alert from our bank. A purchase had been made, $680, at a designer boutique. The problem, neither Ryan nor I were shopping. I immediately froze. Then I called Ryan. Did you buy something? No. Did you use our card online? No. My heart started racing because suddenly, this wasn't a budgeting problem, this was something else. I locked the card immediately. Then I contacted the bank. The representative asked me a simple question, one question that changed everything. Ma'am, are you sure this card is only being used by you and your husband? I answered confidently. Yes. Then she read the name attached to several purchases, and suddenly, I forgot how to breathe, because the authorized user attached to our account wasn't a stranger. It wasn't fraud. It wasn't identity theft. It was someone I knew. Someone who had never asked permission. Someone who apparently believed our money belonged to her. And when I heard the name, my entire world stopped. Diane Carter, my mother-in-law. I sat in complete silence, unable to move, unable to think, because somehow, Ryan's mother had access to our account, and according to the bank records, she had been using it for almost 8 months. 8 months. Thousands and thousands of dollars, designer stores, spa treatments, jewelry purchases, restaurant bills, and unbelievably, payments for her upcoming birthday dinner. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, but the worst part wasn't the money. The worst part was one terrifying question. Did Ryan know? Because if he did, then this wasn't betrayal from one person. It was betrayal from two, and what I discovered later that night would hurt even more. I sat frozen at my desk. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding. And no matter how many times I reread the bank statement, the name didn't change. Diane Carter. My mother-in-law. Not once. Not twice. Dozens of transactions, thousands of dollars. And suddenly, one terrifying question kept repeating in my head. Did Ryan know? Because if he knew, then my marriage was over. Not because of the money, because of the betrayal. I didn't call Diane. I didn't panic. I didn't even cry. Instead, I waited for Ryan to come home. And, honestly, those few hours felt like the longest hours of my life. I replayed our entire marriage in my head. Had I missed something? Had I trusted too easily? Had everyone been laughing behind my back? I didn't know anymore. When Ryan finally walked through the door, he immediately noticed something was wrong. Elina? What's happened? I looked directly at him. No anger, no yelling, just one question. Does your mother have access to our account? His face instantly lost color. And in that moment, before he even answered, I already knew. He knew. Ryan sat down slowly, almost like his legs had stopped working. And after several seconds, he quietly whispered, Please let me explain. Those 5 words broke my heart, because innocent people don't say that. Innocent people say, What are you talking about? But Ryan already knew exactly what I meant. Tears filled my eyes. How long? He looked down. About 8 months. 8 months. 8 months of secrets. 8 months of trust. 8 months of lies. I felt physically sick. Why? I asked. Ryan sighed deeply. And then the truth finally came out. A year earlier, Diane had experienced financial problems, credit card debt, medical bills, and some poor decisions. Ryan had wanted to help, which I would have understood. Helping family isn't wrong. But instead of discussing it with me, he secretly added Diane as an authorized user on our account. Because according to him, it was temporary. Temporary, the most dangerous word in marriage. Ryan looked miserable. At first, she only used it for groceries, then a few small things, and I thought I could control it. I stared at him. Control it? Ryan, she spent thousands of dollars. His eyes filled with tears. I know. And I should have told you. But then he said something that shocked me. I didn't know she'd gone this far. Apparently, Diane had promised him she'd only use the card for emergencies. But little by little, emergencies became shopping trips. Shopping trips became luxury purchases. And luxury purchases became entitlement. Because once people get comfortable spending someone else's money, they rarely stop themselves. Then Ryan quietly handed me his phone. Look. I opened his messages, and honestly, my jaw dropped. Because Diane wasn't asking anymore, she was demanding, transfer more money. I need this. You're my son. Family comes first. And the worst one of all, Elina doesn't need to know. Those words shattered me, because suddenly, this wasn't just financial irresponsibility, this was intentional. I expected Ryan to defend her. Instead, he buried his face in his hands and quietly said, I failed you. Honestly, that sentence hurt more than an argument, because I knew he meant it. Then he whispered, Tell me what to do. But strangely, I already knew because during those painful hours waiting for him, I had made a decision, a quiet decision, one nobody would see coming. Diane's birthday dinner was scheduled for Saturday evening, 3 days away, and according to Diane, it was going to be the event of the year. Luxury restaurant, private room, expensive decorations, everything. And apparently, she had already been charging expenses to our account. Without permission, without shame, without consequences. Until now. I looked at Ryan and calmly said, We're not arguing with your mother. He looked confused. We're not. I shook my head. No. We're going to let her believe everything is normal. His eyebrows rose. What are you planning? I smiled. For the first time all evening. And honestly, the smile scared him. Because Ryan had never seen me angry. Not really. I quietly opened my laptop, logged into our bank, removed Diane's authorization, transferred our savings, created separate accounts, changed passwords, canceled linked cards, and within 20 minutes, everything was gone. Her access, gone. Her privileges, gone. Her free lifestyle, gone. Ryan stared at me in shock. Elina, you're serious. I looked at him calmly. No, Ryan, I'm finally protecting us. And for the first time since we'd gotten married, Ryan nodded, not because he agreed with everything, because deep down, he knew I was right. Saturday finally arrived. Diane spent the entire week bragging about her birthday dinner, posting online, inviting relatives, showing off, completely unaware that something had changed, something she wouldn't discover until the most embarrassing moment possible. Because while everyone was preparing for cake, the restaurant was preparing the bill, and Diane had absolutely no idea that her favorite account no longer existed. What happened during that birthday dinner became family legend, and nobody, absolutely nobody, expected what Ryan would do next. Saturday evening finally arrived, and honestly, if someone had looked at Diane that night, they would have thought she was attending the Academy Awards, not a birthday dinner. She wore a brand new designer dress, diamond earrings, professional makeup, and she spent the entire evening reminding everyone that she was finally being celebrated properly. The irony? Half the celebration had been paid for with money that wasn't hers. Money she had taken without permission. But Diane didn't know that yet. Because Ryan and I had said absolutely nothing. As we drove to the restaurant, Ryan looked nervous. Very nervous. Are you sure about this? He asked. I calmly adjusted my earrings. Completely. He swallowed hard. Because even though Ryan finally supported me, confronting his mother still terrified him. Years of guilt don't disappear overnight. But tonight, something was different. Tonight, he wasn't arriving as Diane's obedient son. He was arriving as my husband. The restaurant was beautiful. Private room, fresh flowers, expensive decorations. Around 20 relatives had already arrived. Aunts, uncles, cousins, family friends, everyone praising Diane, everyone celebrating, and Diane loved every second of it. She hugged everyone dramatically, posed for photos, and loudly announced, "Tonight is all about family." I nearly laughed, because if family truly mattered to her, she never would have hidden those transactions. Throughout dinner, Diane acted unusually generous, ordering expensive appetizers, premium wine, extra desserts. And every time the waiter asked questions, she proudly answered, "Don't worry, I've got it." Ryan nearly choked on his drink. Because we both knew exactly what she meant. She believed she had unlimited access. She believed nothing had changed. And honestly, watching her confidence almost made me feel sorry for her. Almost. Then came the speeches. Diane stood up holding a glass of wine. And of course, she made herself the center of attention. She thanked everyone, talked about motherhood, talked about sacrifice. And then she looked directly at Ryan. "I've always known my son would take care of me." The room applauded, but Ryan didn't smile, not this time. Then Diane looked at me, and with a sweet voice that sounded fake even to strangers, she said, "And Elina, thank you for supporting Ryan's generosity." Generosity. Interesting word, because generosity requires permission, and nobody had asked me anything, but I simply smiled because I knew something she didn't. Finally, dessert arrived. Everyone sang happy birthday, photos were taken, candles blown out. And then, the waiter brought the bill. Diane confidently reached into her purse, pulled out the card, and handed it over with a smile. I watched Ryan nervously. He squeezed my hand under the table. Neither of us spoke. A minute later, the waiter returned, looking uncomfortable. "I'm sorry, ma'am. The card was declined." Diane laughed. "Oh, try again." He did. Again, declined. Her smile disappeared. "Impossible. Run it again." Third attempt. Declined. The room became awkwardly quiet. People looked at each other. Diane's face turned bright red. Then she turned toward Ryan, confused. "Something's wrong with the account." Ryan looked calm. For the first time in his life, completely calm. And then he quietly said, "No, Mom. Nothing is wrong with the account. The entire room went silent. Diane blinked. What? Ryan took a deep breath, then said words nobody expected. Elina removed your access. Gasps filled the room. Everyone stared at me. But surprisingly, I wasn't embarrassed, because I had done nothing wrong. Diane looked shocked. She what? Then she turned toward me. How dare you? I calmly answered. How dare I protect my marriage? Silence. Complete silence. Diane's voice grew louder. I am family, I nodded. Exactly, family asks. Family doesn't secretly spend someone else's money. Her face lost all color because suddenly everyone understood. Aunt Susan looked confused. What does she mean secretly? And for the first time the truth became public. Ryan stood up. Not me. Ryan. His voice shook. But he didn't stop. Mom had access to our account. Without Elina's knowledge, and thousands of dollars disappeared. The room exploded. People started whispering. My father-in-law looked horrified. One cousin actually asked, You use their money without permission? Diane burst into tears. But this time, nobody rushed to rescue her. Then something unexpected happened. My father-in-law slowly stood up and looked directly at his wife. 40 years of marriage, and yet I had never seen him angry until that night. Diane? Tell me this isn't true. She couldn't. Because it was true, and everyone knew it. Then my father-in-law quietly reached into his wallet, paid the bill himself, and looked embarrassed. Not angry, embarrassed, because apparently he hadn't known either. After dinner, Diane tried to approach me, tears running down her face. I'm sorry. But honestly, I wasn't angry anymore. I was tired, very tired, so I simply answered, I forgive you, but trust takes time. And then Ryan shocked everyone one final time. He wrapped his arm around me and said, My wife protected our future, and I should have protected her sooner. Those words meant more than he would ever know, because in that moment, for the first time in our marriage, I knew I wasn't fighting alone anymore. Over the following months, things changed. Diane entered financial counseling. She apologized sincerely, and slowly, very slowly, relationships began healing. But one thing never changed again: boundaries. Because once people learn that access is a privilege, not a right, everything becomes healthier. A year later, Ryan surprised me with something beautiful. He handed me a small box. Inside was a necklace, and attached to it was a tiny note. The note read, Thank you for saving us. I started crying, because the truth is, closing that account didn't destroy our marriage. It saved it. People often ask me, was it really about the money? And my answer is always the same. No, it was about respect, because money can be replaced. Trust cannot. And sometimes, the strongest thing you can do isn't revenge. It's refusing to let people continue taking advantage of your kindness. The end.